What if I told you Drake just walked into a courtroom and left with more questions than answers? And the receipts are finally popping up. If you think this is just another tabloid story, wait until you hear the timeline. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe. We're breaking down one of the worst moments we've seen from Drake in a long time. Fans are furious, stans are scrambling, and anyone still defending him has to reckon with some very awkward optics. There's a video thread, courtroom sketches, and a guy who literally followed this whole thing and documented it. From the outside, it looks like someone tried to lock the doors, but someone left a trail. And it's not pretty. Quick question. Have you ever seen an A-list artist reduce their crisis-level PR to courtroom sketches and low-key uploads? Keep watching. This gets stranger the deeper we go. Here's where things start to feel cinematic. Toronto courthouse, heavy security, bodyguards in suits, and no media allowed inside. That's already a red flag. Normally, big-name court appearances are at least partially public. When they're not, people naturally start asking why. Enter David Wall, the guy who stuck around, recorded what he could, and pieced together the timeline. He wasn't a tabloid reporter. He just kept showing up and assembling clues. On April 2nd, 2025, he posted a breakdown and some footage that nobody else had. According to his posts, Drake walked into family court, looking tense, flanked by his team, and stayed for proceedings that weren't advertised to reporters. If you weren't paying attention, you missed it. But thanks to David, we have more than whispers. So what did David capture? A few courtroom sketches, some brief outside clips, and eyewitness accounts. One sketch shows Drake sitting near a woman who, by appearances, does not match the well-known face of Adonis's mother. She's apparently from Houston in France, while this whole thing plays out in Toronto, which already complicates the initial narrative that this was about the Adonis matter. The clips and sketches suggest this was a family court matter, not criminal, not a business dispute, and that the parties involved were trying to keep it under wraps. That screams personal. Why would someone of Drake's visibility try to hold this in shadows? And why would a woman travel or be present for proceedings in Toronto if she isn't local? Those details create a web of questions. Now look at the timeline. The court appearances happened right around the time Drake abruptly canceled a chunk of his tour and released the Nokia video. Coincidence? Maybe. But when public figures cancel big shows and suddenly have family matters cropping up, fans have a right to wonder what's behind it. Imagine being on a plane home from Australia, rushing to a courthouse, and then dropping a shiny new music video the same week to try to change the conversation. That's textbook damage control optics. Whether it's a paternity thing, a custody fight, or a messy breakup escalating into court, the timing made it look like Drake was trying to steer the narrative away from the courthouse drama. Let's be clear, rumors are not facts. But the swirl around this suggests two main possibilities. One, this could be about a child or child-related agreement, which would be a serious development because it would support long-running whispers that Drake has more family complexity than he publicly admits. Two, it could be a heated dispute with a woman that needed the formal attention of family court. Perhaps a support agreement, visitation dispute, or something similar. If the first possibility is true, it would be the most concrete proof yet of Drake hiding a child, a claim that's been floated in gossip for years. If it's the second, it still paints a picture of personal behavior and relationship drama that clashes with the image in his music and public life. Either way, the optics are damaging, and they play straight into what Kendrick Lamar hinted at on stage, a pattern of messy personal behavior that some songs have tried to call out. Remember when Kendrick came for Drake on Meet the Grams, rapping about hypocrisy, family issues, and being less than authentic? At the time, a lot of people shrugged it off as diss track heat. But as this court timeline unfolded, a lot of those lines began to look eerily prescient. We aren't saying Kendrick is a psychic, but the accuracy of some of his barbed claims has people thinking. Did he see this coming? When diss tracks match up with subsequent real-world developments, it reframes the fight. Suddenly, this isn't just hip-hop beef. It's a narrative that feeds into reputation and legacy. That's why the drip feed of courtroom details feels so dangerous for Drake. The more the public sees, the more some of Kendrick's lines stop sounding like clever writing and start sounding like reporting. Of course, there are defenses. Drake's team could say these were private family matters, that privacy is normal, and that anyone making a big deal is trying to exploit his name. Privacy is valid. Family court often has confidentiality for a reason. But the counterargument is the way this was handled. Heavy security at the courthouse, no media inside, and a flurry of PR moves timed around the proceedings. Those are classic containment tactics. If you're not doing anything that could damage your image, why not let the process play out in the open? Hiding things from the press only invites more suspicion. Let's zoom out. Drake has spent 2 decades building a persona. The vulnerable romantic, the chart-topping superstar, the guy whose lyrics people play on repeat. If these court stories point to hidden children or messy family disputes, we're not just talking about an embarrassing headline. We're talking about an image that millions of casual listeners built up being called into question. The risk isn't only legal or financial, it's cultural. Reputation matters in music. Fans who believe the narratives in his songs might start to feel misled. Long-term, this could shift how people interpret his catalog. That's why this court appearance matters. It's less about one day in court and more about whether the story the public has told itself about Drake starts to unravel. So what happens next? There are a few scenarios. This fizzles. The woman's claim is resolved privately and nothing dramatic comes out. The damage is short-term and Drake moves on. There's a settlement or custody agreement that confirms there's more family complexity than known. Big PR problem, long-term fallout. New evidence surfaces, texts, receipts, more eyewitnesses, that deepen the scandal and force Drake's team to respond publicly. Keep your eyes on court records, official filings, and statements from reliable reporters. Rumors are one thing, filings and verified documents are another. Fans are split. Some defend Drake like he's untouchable. Others are calling for receipts and accountability. The industry itself watches closely. Artists, collaborators, and executives all know how reputation affects streaming, brand deals, and festival bookings. And in hip-hop, where authenticity is currency, this kind of exposure can change the ledger. Ask yourself, would you interpret the same songs differently if this were proven true? That's the cultural test. At the end of the day, we should remember, allegations need evidence. But when a high-profile figure winds up in family court, with timing that matches tour cancellations and PR, you can't just wave it away as old gossip. The pattern is what matters. Whether this ends with a sealed settlement or a public knockdown, it's a turning point in the Drake narrative. What do you think? Was Kendrick calling it years ago, or are we reading too much into coincidences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And as always, stay active.